Hello and welcome to the very last of the pre-season episodes of the FDT-TV podcast. As always, I'm Ian and I'm joined by...
I'm Mike.
And we are here to talk about everything Premier League. But before we do that, there was a rather grand and prestigious achievement by the Lionesses yesterday, who beat Germany. So well done. They've brought football home. And yeah, very, very close game. Very tight-knit game. Germany conceded 3 goals in this tournament. And
all tournament.
2 of them were yesterday. So they did very, very well and deserved well done.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's just a testament to show how far the women's game has come. And to be honest, I can only see it getting more backing, more recognition. Obviously, we've seen over the last certainly 2 years how big the WSL has got, now getting coverage on Sky Sports. And to be honest, I think that's only going to grow.
Yeah.
Going forwards. Absolutely.
Yesterday when we started watching the game, I said to my wife that this ref could ruin women's football on its grandest stage, sort of at that pivotal moment. I think it was a poor ref. I've got to be honest. It was a poor performance. There was some sloppy football in there at times from both teams, but the ref was terrible. Thankfully, it didn't ruin the game too much. But I did think, I said, if this ref ruins the game, people would go, well, the women's game's more corrupt than the men's. Why are we going to watch that? And that would have been it. On its biggest stage, the biggest, say, even men's and women's football, it's the biggest attendance live at a European final. So, it means phenomenal support.
87,000 or something?
87,000 and some change. I think there was more than that for the men's, but not officially. I think a lot of people broke in, didn't they? So they didn't get their ticket scanned. But that's not to be sort of laughed at, really. My biggest thing now is will the Premier League clubs and the big clubs that have teams in the Women's Super League now go, oh, hang on, here's some more money to be had. Let's up the prices now there's some interest. And then ruin it before it can get off the ground properly and get the people in the stadiums, because that's what I have noticed about the Women's Super League is it's getting a lot more accessible on TV, but when you look at the attendances, they're not maybe as big as you would expect them to be. I think they will grow now, but it's just a case of it needs to be nurtured rather than rinsed for money. Sorry, I got a fly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wandering about. But, yeah, it was good. It was good. I did anticipate us getting a red card yesterday after that very early and light yellow. There's some sloppy challenges. You're like, oh, no, don't get sent off. But it is what it is. We still won. We're still victorious. I don't know if that makes us big or prestigious, but maybe that's something that we can discuss next.
We can.
What a segue,
Tenuous link.
So for those of you who may have not have already seen, last week we had a good discussion about what makes things a big club, and we sort of decided that big clubs and prestigious clubs are 2 different things, both have their own merits. But Mike's been doing a bit more thinking about it. So give us a little bit of rundown of what your thinking is, and then maybe we can go a bit further with it in depth.
Yeah, no worries. So obviously, as you just mentioned, we discussed the the differences between a big club and a prestigious club. Prestigious club comes with it history, attendances, form. Over the last couple of years, silverware, honours, all that sort of stuff. Whereas if you're a big club, you're consistently finishing within the top 3, I think is a fair judgment, going far in European competitions, going far in club competitions, attendances, etc., etc.
Yep.
So on the back of that, we decided last week we would start looking into the current Premier League, who is a big club and who is a prestigious club.
Yep.
Now, just off the bat, so we're going on the current Premier League teams for this year. Obviously, we like to discuss all things Premier League. So off the bat, I don't know what your thoughts are behind these. So I have gone for these particular clubs as neither big nor prestigious.
Okay.
Now, obviously, this is an open forum. This is just my opinion. Obviously, if you've got your own comments, leave them down in the comment section below. If you're listening to us on YouTube, if you listen to us on one of the podcast mediums, such as Spotify's, your Apple Podcasts, all that, head over to the YouTube channel, leave us a comment down below, and we will look to
answer
respond to your comments. So right off the bat, these are my opinions. So Bournemouth, Brentford, Brighton,
Yep.
Crystal Palace, Fulham, Southampton, and Wolves, for me, neither prestigious nor a big club. Now, the reason why I have gone for those particular teams is having looked at their honours rolls, overall attendances. Now, obviously, some of these clubs do have history of being promoted from the Championship or Division 1, as it's well known. But I think for a team to be considered as a prestigious team, it needs to be recognitions at the top level within the last 10, 20 years.
Okay.
Is the criteria that I use.
Yep.
So that they are my thoughts. What are your thoughts on those particular clubs?
Yeah, there's a couple that I would possibly add to that. I mean, I don't. The trouble is because obviously I'm a West Ham fan. It's a bit hard because I don't know the ins and outs of the history behind a lot of clubs, and I think you could probably make a case for every club if you go back far enough that but we're prestigious. But if I'm honest, Aston Villa, for me, I would possibly add to that list. And same with Leicester. I know they won the Premier League a couple of years ago. And it's difficult because they won the FA Cup. So I think they're on the cusp of being a big club, or when you look back at it in 10 years' time, if they win another FA Cup or a League Cup, you could go, okay, they're starting to become prestigious. And the other one, Newcastle. It's a difficult one for me because I wouldn't say they're not, and this is a hard bit. They're not a big club currently under that criteria. But then they're not. They are sort of a prestigious club, but they're not a little club either. They're that sort of that stepping stone between, and that's the difficult thing of trying to draw a line in the sand. But no, I think for the whole, on the most part, you've probably hit the nail on the head there with most of those clubs.
Okay, I'll just touch on Aston Villa for me.
Yeah.
When doing the research for this, I would say they. I do well. In fact, I'll put it down to a few clubs that are for me within that middle ground.
Yep.
So Aston Villa, Everton.
Yep.
Leicester, obviously, as you mentioned, the recent success that they've had in the league, and obviously the FA Cup. Leeds.
Yep.
For me. Again, within that middle ground, I suppose they would fall more into the prestigious than the not prestigious. But if you're looking in the shorter time period, I would say they are in that middle ground. Newcastle's definitely in there, and I suppose Nottingham Forest. I think all they have is history. Now they have got a massive fan base.
Yep.
Obviously, their previous European success in the 80s, I believe it was. Just obviously been recently promoted back into the Premier League. So for me, those clubs were kind of on the cusp, and I do agree. They are, or they do sit within that middle ground. And I would say that the only reason they fall into the prestigious category is because looking at their historic honours, which they've won and stuff. So I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Looking at the official, in fact, there is a subcategory that I also wanted to add in, which is kind of in between prestigious and big.
Okay.
And that West Ham in that, and it's the We Are Fucking Massive.
That category.
So,
yeah. Fair enough.
So if we then look at the prestigious side of things, Arsenal.
Yes.
We've got a massive fan base. Granted, we've had no top four finishes within the last 6 years, and which is why, based on the criteria that we spoke about last week, they couldn't fall into the big category.
Yep.
Although they have won 4 FA Cups within the last 4 years. Got to a couple of finals, so 2 Europa League finals, I think. Lost both of them to, I want to say, Villarreal and Chelsea.
Oh, Chelsea. Yes.
So for me, I can't see us being a big club, but definitely prestigious. And obviously, we've got a history as well.
Yep.
Who else we got?
United.
Man United.
Yep.
I've gone for a prestigious. Again, you can't ignore the fact that they've won a shitload of trophies. But again, the last league success they had, I think, was 2011, 2012 or 2012, 2013. But they've not been seated at the top of the table in a good few number of years now. Obviously, we've seen changes to management. I think getting rid of Ollie last year was a bit of a stupid mistake. Yeah, just a crazy one for me. But again, for me, they are a prestigious club based on their history and their fan base. They're a worldwide brand, but because they've not had many honours within the last few years, I can't see them as a big club.
Yep. And what about the old, I don't like to say it, Tottenham Hotspur? Because
this is a difficult.
They're not big.
Yeah. No.
They have a following. And they have a big stadium that's granted. They haven't brought any success to that stadium yet. But when you look back at the 60s and 70s, they were winning everything on the back of trophy, on the back of trophy. So I think in that sense, you have to say they are a prestigious club, an old prestigious club at this rate. But I think you have to put them in that category.
Yeah, no, that's what I've written down, and it's literally just 2 words for Tottenham: prestigious and history.
Yeah.
Now,
Tottenham are the Liverpool of 5 years ago.
Yes.
Oh, sort of that living on sort of borrowed time and living in the past. We won this. Do you remember when we won that? They've not brought any success. This season might change, but don't know.
It does remain to be seen. Yeah. There was part of me that was thinking about putting them into that kind of middle ground.
Yep.
But you can't deny. I mean, they've had quite a few top 4 finishes within the last X number of years. They've been playing in the Champions League. They've got to a Champions League final, which is more than can be said for us within the last 20 years or so.
But no one remembers the runner-up, though, do they?
No, exactly. But no, so for me, I have put them down as a prestigious club. Now, getting into the big clubs. So I will start with Chelsea.
Yep.
2 championships within the last 10 years, 4 European trophies, so 2 Champions Leagues and 2 Europa Leagues, and 2 FA Cups. Again, in terms of a global brand, there's no denying it. Obviously, they've just been bought for something stupid like 3 billion euros or 3 billion pounds or something.
Sow in history.
Yeah, so you can't really deny the fact that they are a big club. In terms of success within the Premier League, I think they've been there or thereabouts in terms of top 3 finishes, so the better of the top 6, if that makes sense. Because obviously the last few years has just been Liverpool and Man City. But yeah, I think Chelsea, you can't deny that they are a big club.
Yep.
Which then leads me on to the next one, Liverpool. Again, the reason why I've gone for them as a big club, again, based on overall honours, so 19 Premier Leagues, 6 European Cups, 8 FA Cups, 9 League Cups. Some of those have come in recent times. Obviously, the current FA Cup winners, I believe, just also beating Manchester City at the weekend. In the Community Shield, they won the League Cup as well, which is, everyone knows that's Manchester City's trophy. Obviously won the league, not last year, the year before, in a COVID-ridden... no, sorry, not last year. The year before that, was it?
Yep.
Because I think City have won it twice on a bounce now.
I have.
So yeah, it's but in terms of recent success, they fit the criteria for their prestigious club, massive following. They're all arseholes.
I think Liverpool are probably one of those. They're one of the only clubs who bridge the gap between big and prestigious at the moment. Because Chelsea have been big since 2003, 2004. And looking back at it, they're starting to become prestigious because of their history. And I think the Champions League and the Europa League wins go a long way to making them prestigious. But I think you've got to have more than 20 years worth of history to be prestigious.
Yeah.
So I would put them in the big, but not necessarily big, but almost prestigious. Need about 15 different categories, didn't we?
Yeah. Subcategories, and then the last one we've got, obviously Manchester City. I'll put them as a big club. 6 Premier Leagues within the last 10 years, 3 times runners up within the last 10 years. I know they haven't hit the European competitions in terms of success that Liverpool and Chelsea have had, but in terms of, again, this is based on the criteria within the last 10, 20 years. You can't deny that they have been one of the best teams in the modern Premier League era.
Yeah, no.
So there we go.
Hit nail on the head there. And let us know in the comment section, as Mike said, if your opinion differs or if you think we've overlooked something. But we are talking Premier League. We're not talking sort of, because you could go back into the league and go, Notts County are prestigious because they were the founding fathers of football, and you go, oh, fuck off. But that leads us into the fact that on Friday, the Premier League kicks off again, and it started early and it will finish late because there is a World Cup in the middle where Gareth Southgate will get sacked because he's going to get kicked out of the group stage. But before that, we have 3 or 4 months worth of football with no international breaks, I want to say. I hope. I haven't looked that up. But that's a guess. So I think because we do like a prediction on this channel, let's jump over to the next screen, which shows us obviously the teams in alphabetical order. First being AFC Bournemouth. That's why they're in front of Arsenal. I think maybe we should run through it in chronological order and have a discussion as to where we think these teams are going to finish after 38 games in the Premier League. So should we start with Bournemouth?
Yep.
Well, my initial...
Go on. Do you know what? I was looking at the table earlier, and I was like, how the hell are Bournemouth ahead of us? But you've just reminded me, it's because they're AFC Bournemouth.
Their full title
anyway,
is AFC.
We can't even say we're the top of the league for
not anymore.
At least the start of the season. Rubbish. Right, so Bournemouth... for me, I'm going to go relegated.
My initial instinct is relegated as well. I think Scott Parker's the manager now, isn't he? They played well last season, but again, they have a very small stadium and they're not ones to be spending loads. They're quite shrewd spenders because of the size of the club. They could pull it off. Obviously, they was in the Premier League for a number of years, But I think going down has done them a fair bit of damage in terms of good players at the squad or good players at the club. Maybe more of a squad now that plays a team, but I don't think the quality is going to be there. Next, Arsenal. Arsenal are 2, 3 or 4 for me. I think they're going to finish third, if I'm totally honest, this season.
Yep.
Especially if you go on pre-season, you could be a title winner. But, I mean, I wouldn't hold your breath.
No.
Pre-season is
I
always
don't know, mate.
telling.
Emirates Cup trophy winners, come on.
Well, what's that, the first time in 12 years, isn't it, or something?
No, 2017 we last one.
Well, that's a few years, mate, for your own cup. Aston Villa. Aston Villa are a difficult one. Obviously, they've signed Coutinho on a permanent. They've brought in some other players. But when you look at, last season we had a big thing, who's the better manager, Gerrard or Lampard? They have a very similar record. And Aston Villa spent a lot more. In that sense, I don't know whether they'll be dragged into a relegation battle, but I wouldn't put them any higher than the mid-table slot.
Yep.
So should we go for mid-table, and then we can always move about if we change our minds a bit later? So we'll put them in there.
Sounds good.
Manchester United, obviously another new manager, Ten Hag, worked wonders at Ajax, has been drilling the team. A number of players have said actually it's like being at a football club again. Only one problem. Well, I don't think it is a problem. Ronaldo wants out. And the trouble is, no one can afford him. So they might be stuck with him. And I think as much of a positive influence as he could be, he could also be a negative influence as well. Because he'll still want to play, but he ain't going to put in the effort. And I think him and Ten Hag will butt heads. I know they've brought in Alex Ferguson again on the board. I don't know if that's to try and sort of be that,
fire him up.
Yeah, because he is like a father figure to Ronaldo in terms of footballing. So for me, I think they have enough quality to be up there, but I think it's going to be a 6th place finish for United.
Yep, I agree.
So that's that. Brentford signed Aaron Hickey, who you was in for at one point, another Scottish left back who can play at right back. That's their big signing. They've also signed Keane Lewis Porter from Hull for £20 million, which is a player I quite would have liked. Exciting in the lower leagues. Can he make the transition? Who knows? But again, they could suffer that sort of second season syndrome. And this is another one I wouldn't want to put higher than mid-table again. And it's difficult because it's like there's a number of these you could go relegation. But actually, if they play like they did last season, that'd be all right. They've added some quality to their team. Where do you want to go?
See, I'm toying between mid-table and the relegation one. I think stick him at mid-table for the moment.
And then we'll work our way down.
Yeah.
Okay. Brighton. Interesting one, Brighton. They've sold Yves Bissouma, who is their midfield anchor, to Tottenham. Looks like Cucurella could be going to Chelsea now because he's under
Chelsea,
a silly transfer bid. So that's 2 big players that they've got rid of. And I don't think they've really brought in anyone of note to replace them. Obviously, Graham Potter hasn't playing very, very well. They do play as a team, play a very distinct style of football. I'm going to go, I would say these are mid-table. I think there's enough quality in the squad potentially still, and some lesser teams who I think will struggle more than them for them to be relegated. I think they could finish 14th or 15th. So again, it's another one that sort of straddles that line of.
I'm going to go for 15th for this one.
I'll go with that then.
I think they'll be safe this year. But I think with the 2 players which you mentioned, if the Cucurella one does come off to Chelsea, I think that's going to be a massive massive loss for them as well. And as you mentioned with Basuma as well, I'm going to go. I think they'll be safer than some other teams, but
there's going to be some real patches in their season, isn't there? Chelsea.
Yep.
If you go on Chelsea's pre-season form, they're getting relegated. But as always, they're going to be fine. I'm going to put them as 2, 3, or 4. They're going to finish in the top 4. Obviously, they got rid of Lukaku, but they've brought in some quality. They are still spending money, and it looks like Tuchel's been given he's given them a wanted list, and they're trying to get the players that he wants rather than Abramovich going, you're going to have Lukaku back. He doesn't fit the system. Okay, we're still going to play him because we paid £195 million for him. Manchester City.
Winners. For me.
Yeah. They were winners last year. They didn't have a striker. They now have a scary striker in Haaland. He hit the post in the Community Shield, and people are going, oh, he's not as good as everyone's saying. He's played 1 game in pre-season.
Yep.
When you listen to his interviews, people say, oh, you're breaking all these sort of records. He's still like 19 or 20. And they're saying you're breaking all these records, you're phenomenal, like you're big, you're strong. He's like, I'm not big enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not fast enough, I'm not good enough at finishing. I've got a lot more to learn and I need to be better. I think the mentality behind that, as well as you put me up front for Man City, playing 38 games, I'm scoring 20 goals. I'm sorry, I think anyone is. With his ability, I've said it he's going to be the top goal scorer for me this year. And I think that will be the cause of Manchester City skyrocketing.
Okay.
So that's what I've thought for them. But you said winners as well. So
yep.
Yeah. Crystal Palace.
I'm going to go for top half.
Yep.
Obviously, Vieira's second season in charge, I thought was a massive surprise for Crystal Palace fans last season. The way he's got them playing as well, I think they were kind of like a bit of a guilty pleasure for me last season. Obviously, a winner's mentality. I know they had a few unlucky results, but again, they're a team that has got a lot of quality. And I think that they will be comfortably in the top half this year.
Yes, I agree. The biggest downfall that they haven't got Conor Gallagher this year, but it does look like they're going to get Ruben Loftus-Cheek back. So I don't think he's the same quality as Gallagher in terms of his passing, but I think he will be trying to prove a point because he's now at a make or break stage of his career. He'll either go down the pan and be forgotten, or he'll get to stay in the Premier League for a few more years. So, yeah, I think Vieira will have them well drilled and top half without a problem. Yep. Everton. This is an interesting one, I think. They've sold Richarlison for 60 million. Looks like Dele Alli could be back out the door. Under Lampard, they've brought in a few players, but they had real patches of form last year. If Calvert-Lewin stays fit, he's scoring them goals, and I think they will go mid-table. If he doesn't stay fit, I'm going to put them in a relegation battle. I think, like last year, they still have enough quality to stay up, but only just.
Yes, so, I can't agree more. I mean, we even spoke about this last week, that they are, I would say, in real danger of potentially going down this year. They had such a lucky escape last year. But I think with looking at how everyone else is recruiting, I don't think they stand a chance this year, if I'm being completely honest. And as you said, losing one of your better players, it's a dangerous game.
Yeah.
Is a massively dangerous game. So yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see Lampard sacked this year as well.
Yeah, so they have brought in like Tarkowski and stuff to hopefully try and shore up the defence, but it's not enough. It's not enough for me.
No.
And
I know it was only a pre-season friendly that we played against them, so it's basically a fitness match. But I think you could look or see even then Lampard thinking, shit, what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
He's just got to hope that the teams around him don't or slip up when they slip up, because I don't see them going anywhere near the top half of the table or even mid-table. Mid-table at best, probably their strongest point, mid-table, possibly 13th, 14th at one point in the season, and then tail off.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately the owner looks like he's pumped loads of money into it, but he looks like he's sort of half out the door, going, don't really want to put much more in.
Yep.
But we'll wait and see. They are sort of one of the, you could say, sleeping giants of football, or of the Premier League. But I think you hit the nail on the head. They've not got the quality in. Southampton can beat you 5-0. Also could get beat 15. It depends on what way the wind's blowing. I think the interesting thing about this season, and what we have to remember, is there are 5 substitutes. So I think the games where Manchester City are 3-0 up and they go, right, okay, half time, let's make 5 substitutes, and you go, when Southampton are in a bad game at that point, they are going to lose by 5-0 or 15-0. Do you know what I mean? For me, I'm going to put a mid-table, because although they do have those really, really bad games, on the most part they're fairly consistent. And they're not going to pull up trees, but you've got guaranteed goals from James Ward-Prowse, and they're there or thereabouts.
Yep.
And then I've realised this isn't really actually in alphabetical order. For the most part, it is, but Fulham.
Yep. Relegation.
Okay. Marco Silva, former Hull and Everton manager, is at the helm at the minute. They've got rid of Fabio Carvalho to Liverpool, who I think was their midfield maestro, and for his age is absolutely phenomenal. Mitrovic is a brilliant Championship striker, and I think if you put him at one of the big clubs, he does really well, but he's not going to get the service that he does in the Championship because of the quality of players, or quality of opposition, I should say. So even with him at full blast, he's not getting the service, so he's not scoring the goals. I think you're 100% correct with that. Excuse me. Which moves us on to an interesting one, because under Bielsa, they played really well in the first season. They got rid of him in the second, although they were stricken with injuries. They were playing youth, and they were the only team who never had a game postponed through COVID. And they fielded teams regardless. They just about survived after changing to, was it Bruno Lage? Is that their manager? It's something like that. American guy who seems to be playing a more or less volatile style of football. But they've sold Calvin Phillips. And although he didn't play a lot last year because he was injured, it showed how much they needed him, because when he did come on, he won them games through winning the ball back. So for me, I'm going to say relegation battle, or, and this is a difficult bit, or relegated.
Yes.
And it really, I think this is one of those seasons that it could, again, come down to the last game of the season, and there could be a sort of 2 or 3 teams who could be relegated at that point. I don't think we're going to see anyone relegated in like February. Do you know what I mean?
No.
So, where do you want to put them? Because I think they'll either finish 15th or bottom. Like, I think that's how big the.
No, I agree. I'm just looking at the teams that are left.
We can always move about as we go.
Yeah, I'm gonna say relegation.
Okay. And again, I think it's going to be a close season. This is not cut and dry. I think at the top end of the season it might be, but now Leicester. Leicester had again a fair share of injuries, and they still finished mid-table last year. The big thing for me is at the minute James Maddison, Newcastle are trying to prize him away for £50 million with a second bid, so I think he'll probably go. Chelsea are after Wesley Fofana, who made a big difference when he was in the team, but again injured for large periods of last season. I think the fact that they've got James Justin back fit and another number of other defenders back fit will help. But if they lose those two players, I think they'll finish mid-table at best. If they don't, they could finish top half. So I'll go with that's my thoughts. What do you think?
No, spot on, absolutely spot on. I was going to say top half of them.
So we put them in there.
Yep.
Liverpool. Now, I think you know my opinions on Liverpool this season.
Yes. For those of you that don't know, Ian seems to Ian is under the impression with the fact that they have lost Sadio Mane and the contributions he was making for the team last season, for previous seasons.
Yep.
Now that Salah is quite selfish, he thinks that they're going to struggle. To be honest, I have to agree with you. I know they did stick past Man City the other day. One of them was a penalty that should never have been given anyway. In fact, sorry, it was 2, wasn't it? It was a 2-1.
It was 3-1. It was 3-1.
2-0.
It was 3-1.
It was 3, yeah. And then that Darwin Núñez obviously getting the goal. To be honest, I think that was more luck than judgment. I think he was in the right place and it just hit his head, if I'm being completely honest. Yep. I didn't see much of... I didn't think much of him from what I've seen in pre-season, from the highlights, and also within that particular game. I mean, I'm happy to be proved wrong, but I'm going to go for top 4 for them.
Okay. See, I was going to put them 5th, and let me explain that a little bit, and then because there's one other team that I think will pick them for top 4. Mane was a team player and happy to pass. Same as Firmino, who didn't get in the team much last year. So Jota sort of played the part, passing to Mane, who got it back occasionally. He never got anything from Salah, but he gave him the goals. Now Mane's gone, and they've got Darwin Núñez, they've got Jota, and they've got Luis, who they bought in January. Those 3 players are now vying for 2 spots, because I think Firmino knows he's done. At what point? Well, I think at the point where they could shoot and get a goal, or they could pass to Salah. They're going to shoot. They're all young players. They all want to make their mark. They all want to be in the first team. So I think at that point, that's where they're going to struggle, because previously it was pass to Salah, pass who's open. You haven't got those. They could prove me wrong, but I think just because they want to make that impression, the young striker generally doesn't have the composure to go, right, okay, let's look up who's about. No, I'm through on goal. Let's have a shot. So for me, I think they will finish 5th. Now, okay. I think the difference between 6th... I think the difference between 5th and the rest of the table is going to be, there's going to be a huge gap. Don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be as close to the top as it is at the bottom. But yeah, so we'll put me in 4th place for the minute. I think it's actually going to go a bit like that. I think you'll get 3rd. I think you'll slip up around Christmas, even though there's a World Cup on, there's no games. Newcastle.
Yes.
Newcastle are trying to make moves in the transfer market. Obviously Saudi backed, but they're not being as backed as much as you would think. Some of the players they're bringing in are a bit like a question mark. Some are at the end of their career. But I still think comfortably, with how they were playing last season, they're going to be top half.
Yep. Agreed. Nothing more to say on that.
Now, Nottingham Forest. I think we know where this is going. It's going to go in relegation battle.
Yep.
And I think it's going to be out of Forest and obviously the relegated teams to be relegated. I think it's going to be very close. I think even Everton and Brighton potentially could get drawn into that battle.
Yep.
I think there's going to be a huge gasp in points in the table at some point. Now Tottenham, I know you don't like it. They're getting top 4 this season, but we'll put them in there. I think.
Mate, I'm happy to shuffle those around if you want to shuffle those around.
It's really hard because you could put it like that. You could put 4 in there, but we're trying to make it as a. I think it's good. The table's going to finish a bit like that at the top. Man City first, Chelsea, Arsenal, Spurs, Liverpool, United. The reason I say that is they are recruiting, and they're recruiting reasonably well. They've got Conte, who has won the Premier League, so he knows how to win it. He's won all around the world. They're going to get a trophy this year. I know I said it under Mourinho, and they would have done if they hadn't sacked him a week before a bloody final.
The final, yeah.
But I think he will get them ticking, and they're going to be horrible to play against this year.
Okay.
That's my opinion. But say as it could go any other way. Liverpool could prove me wrong. Now we'll leave that for last. Wolves. What do you think of Wolves? I would. And this is a difficult bit because you could go that you could. I think Wolves will be top half or mid-table, depending on, again, a bit like Southampton, what way the wind's blowing. Since they've got rid of Nuno, they're not as predictable, but they're always sort of they're that sleeper team, aren't you? People go, 3 points. Hang on, we've drawn or we've lost. But it's only Wolves. They've only got Ruben Neves, but they've got Neto. They've got Jimenez.
I'm going to go mid-table for them.
Okay. I think it's a good place to put them. I think you'd probably be that in the mid-table.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
And then West Ham.
Conference League.
Yeah, possibly. Our pre-season form has never been good, but it's never been good ever. We've got a difficult game coming up, the first game of the season, so I think that's almost like we start on week 2. But again, I think that could go a number of ways depending on what we do. We now have a striker. Apparently, we're going in for another winger, left back and striker. He can play in all 3. My biggest thing is that the striker we've signed, he's a big lad. PSG wanted him. Manchester United wanted him. He come to us because he played with, I want to say it was Pedro Obiang, who sort of sang our praises. And he's gone, that's where I want to play. He scored something like 16 goals last year, 4th highest scorer. But as we see with Lukaku, the Premier League's a different beast.
You got to play to a system. Yeah.
So I think Antonio having to compete for his spot will be good, because that means Antonio will have to be sharp. Also, with the fact of, okay, let's play the big guy, and with 60 minutes go, as people are getting tired legs, let's bring Antonio on. Just run at him, mate. But just boss him about a bit. Use your weight. That makes us potentially a more dangerous outfit. I think under Moyes, you know what you're going to get. It's going to be hard working. It's never going to be necessarily the prettiest, but we've managed to keep hold of Rice. We've kept hold of Bowen, and we've bought a fair few players. So I think 7th. I don't think we'll get anywhere near the top. But as I said, I think possibly from Manchester United down to sort of 11th will be really close. Then there'll be a big gap again from 12th to bottom. But I think the top 5 teams will be flying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's my opinion. Obviously, well, it's our opinions. With
our opinion, I'll be interested to see actually if we
we can
can get a copy of this to see how how close we are at the end of the season.
Yeah, so we will review it at the end of the season to see how far off we were. So we'll go Manchester City first, Chelsea second, Arsenal third, Spurs fourth, Liverpool fifth, Manchester United sixth, West Ham seventh, Palace eighth. Or do you want to put them a bit?
I'm going to go Leicester eighth.
Leicester, Palace, then Newcastle.
Leicester, Newcastle, then Palace.
Okay. Wolverhampton Wanderers, Aston Villa, Southampton, Brentford, Brighton, Everton, Forest, Bournemouth. This is the difficult one because I think they could end up finishing bottom. Or will they? No, because I think.
Bournemouth and Fulham. I agree. I'm torn between Newcastle, Everton, Forest, and Bournemouth. Leeds. Sorry,
Everton. So do you want to go? Do you want to go like that, or do you want to? If I'm honest, I do think Leeds will go down this year. I don't think they were anything special last year. But so we'll go with that. Obviously, these ones are the most difficult because again, Everton could do really well, Southampton could do bad. Same with Brighton. The transfer window's still open, so a lot of things can change. There's a lot of variables still. But this is what we'll go with. Let us know who you think's going to win and get relegated. And yeah, so that moves us on very swiftly to some predictions for the first two games of the season. Obviously, we base this around West Ham and Arsenal. We try to keep everything Premier League, but I'm a West Ham fan. Mike's an Arsenal fan. So we do try and do it like that. So he has got a trophy there, which is not actually his. He's kept it hostage. He's avoided me at all costs on the off season, just to make sure that I couldn't have it. But I'm sure at some point I will have it. But Arsenal actually are the opening game of the season.
Against Crystal Palace.
They play Crystal Palace, which is a difficult opener, I think, but you've had a very good pre-season. So what's your thoughts on that game, Mike?
So from pre-season, we've only lost one game, and it was a behind the closed door game against Brentford. Now, I know we had a difficult start of the season last year with injuries and COVID, people suffering with COVID. So it was a shit start to the season. However, from looking at us in pre-season, I think we've been absolutely phenomenal. I got to say, I think this is the most excited I've been about an Arsenal team in a long while.
You said that last season.
A guy that can score. Yeah, I know. I say it every year. But from looking at some of the signings that we've made, it's been in areas which we've needed. So obviously, Gabriel Jesus as the striker. I think Zinchenko.
It's quality signing.
Whilst we're waiting for Tierney, there's going to be good competition between those two. We've just seen Nuno Tavares go out the door, so he's obviously not going to get a game. Bernd Leno, I think, is on his way out to Fulham as well. But I still think we're a couple of signings away, which is why I think for us top four, third or fourth, I'll be happy with this year. But against Crystal Palace, we can't start the season off the way that we did this year. From what I understand, from looking at the team that was played at the weekend on Saturday against Sevilla, that was the same team that started against, I want to say Chelsea the week before, where we scored 10 goals in over the two games, so 6-0 against Sevilla, 4-0 against Chelsea, with pretty much that starting lineup. So I am going to go for a very, very confident, I know we are playing away, but I'm going to go for a very confident 3-0 win on this one.
It's not too dissimilar.
William Saliba's looked really good since he's come back to us. Jesus is getting the goals. It's nice to see we've got someone with a bit of pace in at left back as well that's not going to get injured and holds the ball up really well. So yeah, 3-0 for me.
I think Jesus will score loads this season because he is a good striker. He just couldn't get a good run of games at City. And Zinchenko, he played left back, but he's an attacking midfielder. He's one of the most versatile players in the Premier League. I think he'd go on to win this one 4-1.
Oh, okay.
I think
Wow.
Palace will maybe nick an early one or a late one. I can see a Jesus hat-trick with a Martinelli goal. I think that combination of players this season will be dangerous. So yeah, 4-1 for me.
Cool.
And then Sunday, West Ham play, and we play the current champions. We don't really have an easy opener. Are we home or away? I think we're away, but I don't.
I'm pretty sure you're away as well, actually.
So,
and you're playing on Sunday.
Yeah. So for me,
No, you're at home. Sorry.
we're at home. Okay. So we're at home. So there'll be a lot of excitement about obviously first game of the season. A lot of optimism because new signings. I think if you're gonna beat City, first game of the season is the time you're gonna do it. Once they get all their players fit and the momentum going, they're going to possibly struggle. I think Haaland versus Craig Dawson could be an interesting battle in the air. Haaland on the pace, but if Dawson gets his positioning right, he's a bloody freight train. We could beat him. I want us to beat him. In my heart is telling me, oh yeah, we could do this. But my brain is going, you're a fucking idiot. What are you talking about? You're gonna get run a train on. I'm gonna go Manchester City. I'm gonna go 3-1 to City. I think, especially fresh off that loss, I think Guardiola will be fuming.
Yes.
So 3-1.
See, I'm kind of stuck between two places on this one as well, because obviously they're just coming off the back of a loss to Liverpool. From what I saw, it wasn't the best of games from Manchester City, but at the same time, I think that Haaland's going to take a little while to bed into the team. And I know they've got another new signing as well,
Alves.
which he was on the bench.
Yeah.
To start off the game. I can't remember his bloody name.
Alves. He scored.
Yeah. But I think this is going to be a bit of a bedding in period for City. And I mean, don't get me wrong, we saw them have a few shocking results last year as well, but they still ended up winning it. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a draw for this game. I am going to go for... I'm going to go a close game, actually. I'm going to go for 2-1 to City. Ooh. But I think it's going to be a late winner for City.
Okay. I'll take that. I'll take the heartbreak on the first game of the season. I think we can get a result until the last minute. But yeah, so with those two fixtures being predicted, let us know again, if you want to, what you think is going to be the outcome of those two games. And... yeah, I think that's about it really. We've got obviously a few days left for transfers to come in. It's unlikely any of them will start the games now, but I'm excited.
Yes,
I'm excited. Hopefully VAR doesn't ruin it. I know they've made a subtle change to the offside rule. I don't know what that is exactly. I read an article about it the other day, but didn't get time to finish it. So. Yeah, it's all fun and games. It's all fun and games until it's not. So, I mean, I don't have anything further to add. I don't know about you.
No, me neither.
Okay, well, with that being said, it's been almost an hour. So, if you've got this far in the podcast, then hashtag FDT-TV in the I was going to say in the chat, not in the chat, in the comment sections. And thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.